guys. So today's a topic I kind of really been wanting to talk about because I feel like it's something that's kind of blowing up on social media based off of whether it's ignorance, bigotry, or the lack of understanding. So I do have a very special guest here with me today. They go by RemytheHuman on Instagram. So, here's Remy.
Hi.
So,
my name is Remy. I go by RemytheHuman on Instagram. My channel is also called RemytheHuman, but I think the username is RemytheHuman. I'm transgender. I identify as non-binary, which means that I don't identify as male or female. Something completely outside of that. Who knows?
So for people that don't understand what transgender means, can you kind of give us like a basic breakdown, 101, and then from there kind of, educate us a little bit?
Yeah. So I would say at a base level, like, being transgender means that how you identify your gender is not the same as how your gender was identified when you were born. And generally that's associated with sex. So like particular like sex characteristics. Like for example, for my case, like I do identify as trans, but only so far as to make that distinction that I don't identify with the gender that I was assigned at birth.
So I guess like to read my other question, you identify as trans because like society is kind of making you identify as that?
No.
No?
Well, I mean, in a way, I think that if we didn't put so much emphasis on the way that gender sort of like iterates itself and how people iterate their own genders, like we wouldn't really have the need for labels such as like transgender or like gender nonconforming or anything like that. I think if people just kind of existed as they existed, it wouldn't beg the need for that.
I like that answer a lot. Just exist as you exist. But how does someone know that they're at that point? Or what are, I guess this is more of a personal question, like how did you know you were transgendered? I guess there's no like signs, but
I mean,
what path did you go down that was like, this is where I feel most comfortable?
I started playing with Legos at a young age and I just knew I was non-binary now. I don't know. That's kind of a hard one. I think that it's hard to identify like a certain point where I think that, actually that's not true, puberty. My first experience with puberty, I absolutely knew it. A lot of things were happening to my body that I didn't understand, and I remembered like being a kid, and like as a kid everybody kind of looks the same.
Yeah. In
the sense that your bodies kind of look the same, like and nobody's really discussing genitalia at that point. I hope. I don't know what anybody else's childhood is really.
2017, these kids are growing.
I mean, hey, I remember thinking that like I didn't understand why. Like I was told why. Like I was told that there were girls and there were boys, but I didn't understand why I had to be that way. Like I didn't understand why I had to look different from someone else or be treated different from someone else. Just like, why does this happen? And I kind of like just didn't let go of that, and kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like my first instinct was, well, if I'm not a girl, then I must be a boy, and that was wrong. But it did alleviate some of that, like, those feelings,
just like of being more comfortable in your own
skin.
And that's the whole point of this. Bridge a gap between like the lack of knowledge that there is in this community and just kind of all communities really. Like I saw a video by a man named Ben Shapiro, and he was trying to relate how someone psychologically or physiologically feel different than what they were born with by equating an age difference. Asking a person, why don't you identify as 80? Yeah. And to me that was kind of the most absurd thing I ever heard. In his speech, he was calling it like a mental disorder and multiple personalities. So when someone like you says they identify as they, them, and theirs, do you think that gives him like the ammo he needs to continue that like bigotry and that like hated speech?
Absolutely. In the sense that I think that he talked a lot about gender dysphoria being in the DSM, and I think a lot of people use.
Before you continue with DSM, I think maybe describing or giving us a little more of what DSM means.
Oh yeah. So sorry. So the DSM is basically like it's this. I don't know if you've ever seen the DSM in person. It's a gigantic. I used to work as a case manager, so I interacted with a lot of mental health clinicians. A gigantic,
like this big old book.
Huge big old book of basically like all of the accepted mental health conditions as of the last update in the DSM, gender dysphoria was added to the DSM. Before that, it was gender identity disorder, which is a little bit more problematic. But he was basically, I think, equating that because gender dysphoria is in the DSM, that being transgender is a mental health condition, which it isn't. But I think a lot of what he was talking about was really problematic, was very, just even like the way he said it, like, was so arrogant. Like, I get that he's a commentator, but I just like, bro, like, come on.
And it definitely spews for hate in that community, like, especially if he's not getting all of the facts right and all of the updated facts on it too.
For sure.
So again, it goes back to like when you identify as they, them, theirs, and that gives them ammo to say like definitely multiple personalities. When
well, which one are you today?
Exactly.
So my pronouns are they, them, theirs, and the reason for that is right now the English language doesn't have a gender neutral pronoun. Other languages actually have them built in.
Do they?
Like German has Z is their gender neutral pronoun ZE, and
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I learn every day. I did find out that Germany just like ranked one of the highest ranking officers, the first transgender highest ranking officer in the military. Like that's, I mean, Germany. They were pretty bad back in the day.
I mean, they're honestly, my brother lives in Germany. Like they're trying real hard to make up for it. If
you don't know what we're talking about, pick up a history book. So at one point it was pretty much just transgender, and then when do you think the non-binary kicked in?
Yeah. Got it here. Non-binary mode.
Because as you're telling me in the car, like when you first did your transformation or started the transformation, you still didn't feel like this is it.
Right. Yeah. Well, because I didn't I was still trying to fit into a binary, and even with all of the, and we were talking about this too, even with all of the connections that I had to the trans community, it was a binary thing. It was trans women and trans men, and I just felt like it had to be either or, and was just trying to fit into this ideal of, what a trans man is like, and I don't know if you picked up on it. I'm not particularly masculine. I can be sometimes. It's an iteration of my personality, but
kind of what you feel that day is
who I am that day, and I don't think that I have any obligation to anyone to be the same person that I was yesterday. It was probably pretty recent, probably 2015. I was with my wife, and I was just really upset, and I just felt like, I was like, well, what if I detransition, but that doesn't feel right either. I don't want people to call me she. That doesn't feel that feels just weird, and all these different things. And she, at that point, I was completely identifying as male. I, was dressing completely masculine, and she was just like, well, just put on one of my dresses. And I was just like, I can't do that. And this is what gets me. As a trans person, okay. As a trans person, I was like, oh, I can't do that.
So you even were you were having your own internal just
debate.
Yeah, there's a weird a weird split.
Because we have these roles assigned to gender so much that as a trans person, even I was like, oh, I can't do that. I'm a male. I'm a dude. Dudes don't wear dresses.
And do you think that was because you were more worried about the outside looking in on you, or
Well, to a degree, I think that trans men are held to higher standards because they already have this idea of well, you're definitely not a man because you weren't quote unquote born a man.
Yeah.
So for me, it was kind of well, if I wear a dress, then I'm literally all this respect that I tried to build from other people is just gonna come crumbling down.
And do you think at that point you're facing even more obstacles when you go out of your house every day, when you were clearly that person's trying to look like a dude, but why are they wearing a dress and makeup?
Totally. Absolutely. I've experienced a lot of trauma in that way, and it has shaped so much of how I interact with the world. I have been assaulted physically, verbally. I have been harassed. It's a lot harder for people. I'm not going to say it's a lot harder for people who are non-binary because I don't know other people's experiences. Particularly trans women I know have a really tough experience if they don't pass. But, there's something about challenging a binary that really makes people uncomfortable.
Where do you think that uncomfortableness stems from in the individual judging the other person? It doesn't make sense to me, just let someone kind of be them. If causing you harm physically, mentally, or emotionally in any way, like
Keep
what
walking.
is the point?
Anywhere. As soon as you say something that challenges a gender binary, people freak out. And I can't exactly tell you why that is. I wonder if it's just because that's just one of the social paradigms that we haven't questioned for so long. But it really freaks people out. In addition to the fact that people are constantly trying to figure out your gender when you walk down the street. It's crappy. I'm gonna go with crappy.
But what are some of the most difficult personal hurdles you've had to overcome during your transitioning?
Honestly, mostly other people. I mean, I had my own stuff, like when we were talking about like me basically having like an identity crisis over my gender identity. But honestly, like I kind of calling you out, society. Like that was kind of still your fault for telling me that there was a binary. But I think honestly, bigotry for other people. And I was telling you where I lived before, super close by. I used to get a lot of hate. I once had someone throw stuff at me on the bus.
On a public bus?
On a public bus. Nobody said anything. And he got off the stop before me. And I remember thinking that in between my block and his block, there's a grocery store, there's a restaurant, like all these different things. Like, what if I go to the grocery store one day and run into him, you know? Like,
and there was no previous contact with this individual, I'm assuming, just...
Never mind.
It was just straight, he didn't like what he saw and just decided to take action upon himself and react this way.
It was the same thing one time. It happened multiple times. It's happened to me on the subway in New York City. And I think one of the worst things for me was like when we told the police and stuff, like, you know, this is very clearly a hate crime because of the things that they were saying were very, very clear, like slurs and stuff. Yeah. They're like, oh, hate crime, oh, you know, we don't want to go in that territory, you know, like so hesitant to do that. And it made me think like how many hate crimes go unreported.
So do you not find any help when you, like, you know, legality wise, like if you have to call the police for a situation, like is it still, so you kind of just give it up seeking like professional help?
Honestly,
you know what I mean?
I just try to make myself as physically safe as I possibly can. And honestly, when I was going through a lot of this, like I developed post-traumatic stress disorder. After the experiences on public transportation and in public places, I developed agoraphobia. I wouldn't leave my house. It was probably a period of almost a year. I lost my job, like, because I couldn't get to and from. I was afraid to leave my house.
Do you think if there's like if you had the opportunity to sit down with people that reacted these certain ways towards you, like in a non like violent way, if you can just get a message across, you know,
what
like
would it be?
Yeah, what would it be?
Just because you don't understand someone and they're different from you, you don't have to take any action.
If you don't want to take the time out to get to know the individual, then there's no reason to react in violence, or in any negativity.
I agree. I just think that, like, if it doesn't affect you, which, like, it didn't affect any of those people, like, keep moving, like, keep walking. It's just kind of ridiculous to me. But that's definitely been one of my biggest hurdles is other people and, like, just the preconceived notions and, like, interacting with people, like, it gets kind of exhausting. Like, you know, like, explaining that, no, I'm not multiple people, and these are my pronouns, and, like, and sort of towing the line between, like, asserting myself and, you know, like, it just, that's probably been my biggest challenge.
It seems like it's pretty exhausting. A person has to fear their own safety because they want to feel comfortable in their own skin.
And I went through a period of, like, just, like, solely being femme and, like, allowing people to misgender me because it felt safer. And it was actually right around the time that Trump got elected.
Do you feel around the election time or around the, you know, when he was running for presidency that there was even more hate spewing towards you?
Yes. That is when I stopped presenting the way that I wanted to. And I'm still, to be honest with you, allowing myself to be brave enough to do that because of how much bigotry I experienced. And when you experience something day in and day out, it gets to you. When you experience that day in and day out, something psychologically messes with you. And I didn't feel safe anywhere.
I'm assuming it felt easier to just be like, you know, whatever, I'd rather not have the fight, not have the argument, not have the conversation.
It was survival mode. I was doing what I had to do to keep me safe.
Finding a job, work, is that hard?
Yes!
Yeah?
That is such a good question. No, you know, no one's ever
asked me that. It's such a simple question.
I honestly, like, for trans people in general, so Do you remember when marriage equality became a thing?
Yeah.
Everyone was so excited.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, non-profit organizations that were there for queer rights or LGBT rights shut down because they were like, oh, we're done. No! There's so
much more.
many, even just gay and lesbian people and trans people who job discrimination, housing discrimination, totally illegal. In Jersey, totally legal. Did you know that?
I did not.
Totally legal. If you look it up.
They just can just deny you
on the basis of being trans.
That's insane.
And in most, not some, most states. Seriously, those are the things that you need to exist. Honestly, depending where you are geographically, I can only speak of my location. New York City really likes to have a trans person on their staff a lot of the times, depending if they're a very liberal organization, because they can kind of say like, oh, I have a trans person on my staff. But also there's a lot of policy now, like in the EEOC, like the Equal Opportunity Commission, that is sort of the language for surrounding gender is talking about gender identity.
Okay.
So people are arguing that if it's talking about gender identity, that includes trans individuals. So I'm hoping to get better. Where I am at now, I had to do a lot of educating. Those folks have been pretty awesome. Okay. So I think it really is a matter of asserting yourself and being patient, and it's really hard. It's really hard.
That's insane to me. Alright, so that's pretty much my conversation with Remy today. Definitely want to thank them for being here. So thank you.
You're welcome.
And again, I'm gonna link their stuff right here. The RemytheHuman. Is there like a period in there? It's all straight.
That's all straight.
And then what was your
all straight.
and what was your YouTube channel?
It's Remyisms, but if you look up RemytheHuman.
Cool. And right now, I think you said there's only one video up there, like your intro.
Only one, just me. It's 60 seconds of me spouting facts about myself. And the last one is I still play Neopets. Spoiler. But
anybody out there in the beauty community, I would really suggest checking out some of their stuff. It's amazing. I mean, I don't know if you want to get close to the camera. Let me see your makeup. I like what should I do today? And your wife's descriptions are
oh my god, she like doesn't
hot chocolate.
She doesn't care about makeup at all. One day she said red.
that was one of my favorites. And
I was like,
you were like, okay, this is my red look. I think that's what you should keep doing. Like having people like,
please,
like don't do like,
just a word or a phrase.
Yeah, and then you bridge off of that.
For there. Yeah, I think that's a fun thing. But so far it's just my wife.
And you can pull it off though. I challenge you to do Cobra Starship. That's all I'm gonna throw out there.
Oh god, okay. Alright, so look out for the next video on my Cobra Starship makeup look.
Thank you again for having this conversation with me. I definitely learned a lot. So I hope those of you that do watch this, take something away from this, and it's nothing negative. And if you have anything negative to say, don't bother saying it on my channel, because I don't want it. My channel is about openness and love and understanding and education. So
feed the trolls.
Exactly. Bye guys.
Bye.
Stay as casual as you can.